All right. Welcome back, all you, the Weekend Rotation fans. We're here doing an SEC preview for the 2023 season. I'm joined by co-host Alex Day. Hi, Alex.
What's up, guys?
Sean Woodward.
What's up?
AJ Sessions.
Evening.
Jake McKeever. And Noah Darling.
College Baseball Central Nation, let's ride.
Yeah, let's go. Speaking of that, as you can see, we here at College Baseball Central are super excited to announce our partnership with University Traditions. You can see all the hats that these gentlemen are wearing today, all sponsored by them. They're a company that is all about supporting your local favorite teams. Go online at universitytraditions.biz or go follow them on Twitter. Use code CBC15 and get 15% off your whole first order. Go in there, go get them. They got a lot of cool hats in there. Go support your local teams. Lots of cool college hats. These guys are rocking them today. They look great. All right, let's dive into it. SEC, we're really excited about this stuff here. We're going to go into the rankings here that we did as a group. We broke them down 14 through 1. We voted individually, and then we broke it all down and factored it out and figured out where we want to go. Alex, if you want to bring up that slide, let's jump right into the 14.
All right.
So 14, I got Mizzou. They were at the bottom of most people's list, not everybody. Noah, what do you got on Mizzou here this year, 14?
Yeah, Missouri is a team I'm very, very interested in because they're one of those teams that I plan on seeing a couple times. I live in Omaha. I want to see the SEC. You know, for better or for worse, Missouri is my best option. They're driving distance. So I'm very interested. And as always, when you look at Missouri, you worry about their pitching. But they bring in a stud transfer, Chandler Murphy, who looked very good in their tune-up this fall. And then they bring in some power on the offense. They got Trevor Austin coming in, returning, almost bat 300 last year. And they bring in Cam Chick. I know some Arkansas fans out there might recognize that name. He was at Nebraska for that crazy regional, and feels like he's been there forever. I was pretty surprised to see that he's still in college. He's back. He's a big, lumbery guy. He's going to be somebody that if he hits a few home runs, they're going to be pretty viral videos because he's one of those guys. He's kind of a team guy. One of those guys, steps on the field, you root for him. And then Trey Morris coming in at catcher, big, big impact guy. Missouri is, of course, going to be one of those teams that we have them at 14 for a reason, but it's the SEC. You never know how good they could be. I think we had A&M down here, right around here last year, and now Jake is pretending to be a big A&M fan when we all know he's a big Pitt guy. So you never know.
Alex, anything else here with Missouri that we're looking for? I know like they could be a top 60 team that just happened to be in the SEC this year. What else are we looking for in Missouri?
Yeah, I mean, they're just an unfortunate conference. But, I mean, there's somebody that if they can make some noise, they could surprise some people for sure.
Yeah, I think they're going to battle SEC. I just think it's just a tough conference. There's a lot of good teams this year. Same with our next one, number 13, Alabama. I think that they're good. They've rebuilt a little bit. Sean, let us know what you think here about Alabama, 13.
Yeah, so I was actually the only one to put Alabama as 14 and not have Mizzou as 14. You know, they made it deep into the SEC tournament last year, but that doesn't really amount to anything if you don't make it to the NCAA tournament. They also lost star pitcher Prelit, and I don't know if they can bounce back. They're a football school, not a baseball school. So until they prove me otherwise, I have them down here.
AJ, I know Alabama's got a little bit of pitching still, even losing Pruitt. Do they have enough on the offensive side? That's a big question mark.
Yeah, they're going to be a team who has to find runs in new ways. They're losing a lot of just experience, and you know, in the SEC, that's huge. Whether it's transfers or guys who've been in the league for a while, they're going to have new guys step up, and that's always a question mark. It was a question mark when Auburn had transfers come in last year, and we saw how far those transferred carries them. But it'll be a question. I don't have too much confidence, but I think they'll be a fun team to watch as the year goes on.
Agreed. I think that a lot of these teams, we had to rank them 1 through 14. It was tough. We had a hard time. Kentucky was another one that was kind of surprising. People had them all over the board. Jake, what do you got on Kentucky here?
I had Kentucky as high as 5. I know that LSU kind of got the king of the transfer portal, but I think Kentucky is almost going to be the prince. They might not have the pitching this year, but I think their best player is going to be Hayden McGarry. He's a D2 transfer who hit 35 home runs last year, hit nearly 500 throughout the course of the season. They did beat Tennessee last year, and I kind of look for them to play a little bit of a spoiler role. So I have them as high as number 5, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, they battled in that SEC tournament last year. They looked good, and sometimes that big ballpark, they won a couple games late here. Noah, any news other than that going to Kentucky?
Yeah, I just think about how Kentucky ended their season and how a lot of Kentucky fans, a lot of college baseball fans thought that they should have gotten that nod in the NCAA tournament. I didn't even think it was that much of a debate. Of course, I'm an Ole Miss lifer, but when it came down to Kentucky, there wasn't enough juice for me there, and I think what little juice they had is gone. You look at a guy like Ryan Ritter, who's now with the Rockies. It's just not going to do it for me. I don't see it with Kentucky, and I know that Jake is for some reason on the bluegrass train this year.
I'm saving Kentucky baseball this year. That's my goal.
You should get
Saving Kentucky baseball.
Get in a Twitter fight with John Calipari about it.
Number 11, Georgia. Now, we had them ranked all over the board. They're tough to question. Alex, I know we talked about this a lot. Where are we at with Georgia here in the pitching and all that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, losing Jonathan Cannon that's a big blow, but I mean, they still got some guys there, and yeah, they're going to be a scrappy team in the East. They'll, I think they'll take a step back, this year. That's why we have them so low. But they're going to be a team that they're going to surprise. Probably one. They'll probably get one, weekend somewhere where they're going to surprise somebody, whether it's against Florida, or Tennessee, or something like that. They could jump up. If you overlook them, they'll surprise you.
AJ, are we missing anything on Georgia, or are they right where they should be here in these rankings?
I think they're right where they should be. They're one of those teams who their floor is not making the SEC tournament. They're just in danger of that. They have to have guys step up. But their ceiling is probably something similar to what we saw last year from them.
Yeah, I think that they're right where we should have them. I mean, they're in that mix here at 11, 10, 9. Speaking of 10, Auburn. Jake, what do we got on Auburn this year? I know that they're missing some power hitters. They're missing some dudes that got drafted. Where are we sitting on Auburn?
I was kind of conflicted on Auburn when I was doing a little bit of research on there because they have been to Omaha 2 of the last 3 years, but they've never really contended for the top near the SEC West. They did have a high turnover last year, but they did get highly recruited freshman Ike Irish. I think he's going to be a nice change of pace for LaRue and going to be a DH out of that spot as well. So don't be surprised if Auburn's kind of like they were last year where they make a run deep into the tournament, but not necessarily going to compete in the SEC West.
Yeah, I agree there. I think that they're sitting there missing a lot of talent. I think this is a rebuild year for them. Sean, you got anything else on Auburn for us?
Yeah, kind of in line with what y'all said. I mean, how can you replace a guy like Sonny DeShera? I don't think you do. And they'll be back, but not this year.
Yeah, I think they're just missing that bullpen. They had a really good bullpen last year. It got them through the regionals and super regionals against Oregon State. It's a very good ball club. I don't think that they're as good this year. I think they're missing a lot of those arms. Speaking of arms, South Carolina, AJ, let's have it.
You're looking at what could be one of the top 3 rotations in the SEC, completely serious. They're bringing back Noah Hall, who had a fantastic end of the year, Will Sanders, who's going to be a first-round pick, and then who do you want, the previous freshman All-American and Jack Mahoney coming back off injury? Do you want the freshman Jerzenbeck who throws 96? And that's before we get to any of the relief arms who got experience last year because of injury. And, from a team who last year struggled to put 4 competitive pitchers on the mound, this is a complete flip. Of course, you got to stay healthy. It's the name of the game. But pitching will lead this team. The offense is, you need the offense in the SEC, but pitching will keep this team in games where they could not be kept in the game last year. 9 is too low.
Absolutely. Speaking of offense, though, Noah, do they have it? Can they get it? Where are they going to find runs? Where are we getting here?
I've been getting a lot of flack from my love of the South Carolina Gamecocks this year. In fact, the entire state of South Carolina baseball. I know AJ doesn't really care for Clemson, and they're not in the SEC, so we don't really care about that right now. But South Carolina baseball is back in both senses of the term. And Braylon Wimmer, he's a little bit somebody to hang your hat on. He came out of the draft. He returned. He's back. If you've seen South Carolina play the last, AJ, 10, 12 years, you've seen Andrew Eister in the lineup. But he's gone now. You got to have to be able to replace his kind of production, which is easier said than done. But, yeah, it's going to be the pitching carrying the weight. If that offense can kind of come through, this is still a pretty young group, but at the same time, they're a veteran group. So you got a lot of those guys who have been there before. They haven't really seen that success. But if you remember how they went out in that SEC tournament, That's a horrible way to end your season. Disgusting. AJ is still throwing up. I think he just threw up right before the show started. I'm
I have
thinking
nothing left in my stomach. It's just all gone.
Yep, it's all gone. That's
I
gonna be
believe
a
all
fun
6
show.
of us were watching that game live, and it was just absolutely disgusting and heartbreaking. I think that it's a big bounce back year. I think 9's a little low for them right here. I had them ranked much higher, but it's all going to come down to in-season play, how they score here. Talking about rebuilding, Alex, we got Florida at 8. Do they have the arms to rebuild? I know Barco's a big arm to miss.
Barco's a big arm to miss, but they brought in Hurston Waldrop from Southern Miss, and he's a beast. I still have nightmares from him from the regionals last year. And they've got Wyatt Langford coming back. So I think they're going to be a very well-rounded team. They're going to have good pitching. I mean, Florida always has good pitching, and their bullpen should be pretty solid. And their offense is going to that's going to be the biggest question, is where can they get offense outside of Wyatt Langford, and if they can protect him. And if they can, then they're going to be a dangerous squad in the East.
Jake, do we got any ideas on where we're going to get offense here for Florida?
I'm going to be honest, man. The thing that really I have a bone to pick with Florida is just how easy their schedule is. They play 20 of their first 22 games at home, and they don't leave the state of Florida until they go to SEC play. Don't have to play LSU, don't have to play Arkansas. So, I mean, this is going to be a Florida team. It's kind of weird to say because it's the SEC and everybody's so deep. But we're not going to know how good this Florida team is until about the end of March. That's kind of a scary thought. And, I mean, everything's going to be up in the air for them. But, I mean, they're a talented team. They're Florida. They're an everything school. Don't be surprised if someone has them ranked. I'm looking at you, Noah, at the 3 or 4 mark right before SEC play. That's kind of where I see them. But I kind of have them right in this spot, too, once SEC play starts as well. I just don't think they have the experience with Barco gone. I think that's going to be a big mess.
Yeah, I think that they're going to benefit from that schedule. Like you said, they play all their games in Florida. They're at home for 20 of those games. I think that they're going to be ranked high because they're going to get a lot of those games at home. Maybe they win, 17, 18 of those games, and they put themselves in a position to compete. But then once SEC plays, I don't think they have the offense there. Speaking of complete rebuilds, Vanderbilt, number 7. Sean, where we got Vanderbilt going here this year? Tim Corbin and bunch.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had him higher, and I think that's purely because Tim Corbin's at the helm. They lost a couple guys to the transfer portal, but it's Tim Corbin and it's Vandy. They always reload. You still have Enrique Bradfield this year, who's a top contender for the Golden Spikes already. So while I could see them kind of lacking a little bit like last year, I could also see them really showing out this year and surprising a few people.
Yeah, they lost some guys in the draft. Spencer Jones, one of those guys that I got to see live, and he is great. Noah, where do they fill up those runs? I know Bradfield's going to be great there at the top lineup. Who else are they going to get in there to get them some runs here?
Well, when you look at this Vanderbilt lineup, you see a lot of guys who you've heard of before, but you really don't know anything about, like Javier Vaz, Parker Noland. These aren't guys that you really get excited about. Like when you think about Austin Martin, J.J. Blade back in those days when they would just bring guys in and constantly rebuild. We're kind of in this weird era where we don't know who Vanderbilt is because we didn't see these guys shine. They don't really have a star in the lineup other than Enrique. Nobody that you can count on and say, we need a home run right now, go get it. If it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Parker Noland, the senior. The last time somebody saw him on a big national stage, he was bunting for the last out of the 2019 national championship. So there's some ill will in my head there, but there's a little bit of that question mark up and down that entire lineup. It's going to be very interesting because we all know Vanderbilt is still the Alabama football of the SEC. But the question is, are they going to rise to that potential? Because recently they've been falling a little bit short of that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with their pitching staff here, rebuilding there. I think you nailed it on the head with Nolan. I think, being that senior and being able to play multiple positions where they're going to put him at catcher or first. I've heard that they might even put him in the outfield a little bit here this year. We'll see what they do. I mean, I know they got lots of shoes to fill here. Speaking of shoes to fill, lots of guys coming back. Mississippi State. Jake, where are we at with Mississippi State coming back?
I really don't know how I have to feel about Mississippi State because they're kind of giving me A&M football vibes where they just have so much talent, so much NIL money, just so many people coming back that it's almost just a little bit too perfect. And you almost forget that they were terrible last year. They couldn't win games late. And it's kind of getting the same thing here. The fan base is kind of getting bought in, NIL money is coming in. And I really want to pump the brakes on Mississippi State. I don't have a lot of confidence from them. It seems like their rock, the catcher last year, is gone. It seems like they have just a ton of talent, and they don't really have that leader yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mississippi State kind of around that Auburn-Georgia line.
Yeah. AJ, what do we got on Mississippi State this year? Anything new on the pitching side? Anything going on other than their returning starters?
I mean, on the pitching side, they went into last year thinking they'd have Landon Sims to lead the rotation. When he went hurt, that completely just, I think, destroyed the core of that team and who they thought they were going to be. Who is going to be their glue guy this year who steps up? Who's going to be their guy who they try to base their identity on? And can that core stay healthy? I think it starts with Hunter Hines on the offense. He's probably your one guy who you bring back, you put in the middle of that order and go, he's plugged in. Who's going to help him? And, like Sean said, there's a ton of talent. But like Jake said, it's not always guaranteed to click.
Yeah, and Hines was big in SEC play. He really stepped up last year. I expect to see him not get afraid at all in the middle of that lineup there and help carry those guys. I think 6 is a little high, but you never know. There's a lot of rebuilding here in the SEC this year. Ole Miss, number 5. Welcome to your championship rebuild year here, guys. Noah, I'll let you speak first on this Ole Miss team.
Well, as everybody who's a fan of the show knows, these have been my Rebels for several months now. And as I said, I will still be an Ole Miss lifer until they lose a game. I have a feeling that's going to be earlier than a lot of people want to plan because this team reminds me so much of last year's Mississippi State team. You lose Tim Elko, that leader that they've had forever, a.k.a. their Tanner Allen, but they still bring some of those leaders back, like a Jacob Gonzalez. They have this flashy pitcher. Names escape, Hunter Elliott. These are guys that it lines up so perfectly with Mississippi State that I'm a little scared. At the same time, I think they're going to repeat. So I don't know what to think with this Ole Miss team because they are so weird, and that's right where they want to be. So
I'm not on the repeat bandwagon. I wasn't necessarily on their bandwagon last year. Alex, where do you have this Ole Miss team? Noah thinks they're going to repeat. I doubt you got them there.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to repeat. Now, if you say that they're going to repeat as far as being the last team to make it into the NCAA tournament, then I might be on board with that. But they've got talent. I mean, Jacob, like you said, Jacob Gonzalez, Hunter Elliott, those guys are dudes. But you don't have you lose Dylan DeLucia, and you lose a lot. Tim Elko. It's gonna be hard to see how they replace that production and that leadership. But Mike Bianco's a good coach, and he'll figure it out. And I mean, he'll have them in an NCAA tournament. Maybe they make a regional, maybe they make a super regional, make a run at it. That's what Mike Bianco's good at that. So they'll be around at the end of the season for sure.
Sean, I know that we've talked Ole Miss baseball. They have weaknesses. What is the weakness? What keeps them from being this successful again after a championship season?
Yeah, I mean, you lose a guy like Tim Elko, who's been there for forever, and who had a great season even with an ACL tear, and I think that's hard to bounce back from. They do have Hunter Elliott, like Noah said, and that's going to be a big piece, but I think it's honestly just too early to project where they're going to be. A lot of question marks offensively, and I kind of agree that they're like the Mississippi State of last year.
Yeah, I'm excited for them. I don't think that they have Bianco is a good coach. I just don't know if they're going to have the juice and the guys to get through. Speaking of that, Texas A&M, they lost a couple leaders, but Jake, you think they're back? You think they're heading back to Omaha here as the number 4 team in the SEC?
I do. I know they had an unlikely run to the College World Series last year. I think a lot of people had them, almost being as a fringe tournament team in the SEC tournament, not the NCAA tournament. Do have a couple stud freshmen. Jace Lavatier hit a 506-foot bomb in fall ball. I sent that video to Mark. So, it's got me really pumped. Claunch and Rock and Palish, they're going to be big, big holes to fill. But, it's not something that our coach can't solve. We got everything, man. He's gonna bear the burden of the football team pain. So there's gonna be a lot of high expectations for A&M baseball this year.
AJ, where are you at on A&M baseball?
I have A&M baseball in the bottom half of the SEC. I think they kind of come back down to earth a little bit. How they won games last year is just not sustainable. Yes, it's the new coach Slosh magic and all that. Blowing bubbles when they score runs, and it's all great, but can they sustain it? I don't think they can sustain winning 12 to 11 ball games in SEC competition. I just don't think they can do it.
Yeah, do Slosh and the Eski, can they get enough here? I don't know. Alex, where are your takes here on this A&M team?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be they're gonna be a fun team to watch. There's a lot of I think same like with Ole Miss. There's a lot of variability in their outcomes where they could be they could make another Omaha run or they could miss the tournament. We'll just have to see how it all clicks together. But Schloss is a good coach. Nate Yeski's a really good pitching coach. I'm sure they'll figure something out.
Speaking of a team that's got to figure some stuff out, DVH down there in Arkansas. Number 3, this team perplexes me. Sean, why don't you let me know a little bit more about this team here?
Yeah. So on both sides, offensively and pitching, you lose a lot of guys this past year. Arkansas had one of the best defenses in college baseball, and with the guys they're bringing in from JUCO, I'm going to be honest, I don't necessarily see that happening again. Some of those defensive numbers aren't quite where you'd like them to be. Pitching wise, you have one grad student, and that's Cody Frank from Nebraska. You have no seniors, and then you have 3 or 4 juniors. So it's a very young pitching staff as well. And so combining that with so many different people coming in, I'm really not sure. There's kind of a question mark for me. But at the same time, I trust DVH and I trust what the coaching staff can do. One of my main questions, though, for this season is between 2 guys, Peyton Holt and Isaac Webb. They're both from JUCO. They had 55 successful stolen bases last year. Arkansas only attempted 59. So I'm really interested to see if that's a switch in the game plan for DVH.
Dave Van Horn is an old school guy. He seems to mix it up, so maybe that's part of his plan. No, I know we got to meet him down there in Omaha last year. What are your plans here for Arkansas? What do you see from them?
Well, if they really want to switch it up, maybe they'll have a few bat flips this year. But if those bat flips are coming from anybody, they're coming from Peyton Stovall. I'm so excited to watch him in his sophomore season. He had so much pressure on him heading into last year, kind of for not really a good reason. There was so much leadership around him. By the end of the year, he was really able to settle into that role of what he was. And I really want to see him rise up to kind of like how we expect Hunter Hines to take over for Mississippi State. I want to see Peyton Stovall in that kind of leadership role at Arkansas that I'm really excited to see. But then you got a lot of guys who don't have that true SEC experience with kind of that JUCO like Sean was talking about and some other guys. And it's going to be kind of like those Michael Turner rental kind of players, I guess you could call them. It's going to be a very interesting year in Arkansas, but I know that Dave Van Horn doesn't rebuild, he reloads.
Speaking of reloading, lots of JUCO, like you guys said, that is kind of a new trend, especially in SEC baseball. They're going out and getting the best JUCO players in the country that are ready to play now, not waiting on these freshmen. Jake, what do we see here in that Arkansas lineup?
Never doubt Dave Van Horn. There's going to be a lot of question marks on the roster, but there's just some guys that figure it out. Him, Corbin, they're in that same group. I'm really, really excited for their opening weekend college baseball showdown. We get, the most memorable super regional last year rematch between them and Oklahoma State. We're going to find out how good this Arkansas team is really, really fast with them playing TCU as well as Texas that weekend. And then, like I said, never really doubt Dave Van Horn. He pulls magic out of his hat every year. And don't be surprised if, they're a 10-12 top-ranked team fighting for a regional host.
Yeah, I don't doubt DVH. I just want to see how these guys progress, see where this lineup goes, and see if they can really fit these pieces that they're missing. They're missing a lot of leadership from last year. But it was exciting last year to see them down there. Speaking of a team that still wants to make that trip, Tennessee, they missed out last year. Noah, I see you got that hat on. Where are we thinking here with old Tennessee?
It is impossible not to love the Volunteers yet again. Of course, unless you are an Arkansas fan or most fans of SEC teams or most fans of teams across the country not named Tennessee. But other than that, impossible not to love this team. You look at that rotation. We talked about South Carolina's being up there, but they're just not topping this one. If Tennessee didn't have this rotation, maybe we could talk about South Carolina a little bit more. When you talk about Chase Burns, Chase Dolander, and Drew Beam, that is going to be very, very hard to beat. I don't think Notre Dame is going to be coming through that door anytime soon, but that's the only weakness I could see for this team. They are so good. There's going to be a few of those plugins on offense that we worry about again, but those were the same question marks we had a year ago, and Tony Vitello is proving to be, dare I say, better at reloading than Dave Van Horn.
Ooh, that's a hot one.
Those are fighting words.
Some guys from Missing out on some guys from a year ago on that offensive side. AJ, where are we thinking about with this Tennessee team?
It's replacing a few leaders. Luke Lipsius was there for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
It felt like he was older than Tony V. But it's going to be the transfer step in. Maui Ahuna, the transfer from Kansas, stepping into the shortstop. Is he going to be able to be a plug and play guy you can trust in the SEC? But that pitching is going to win them a lot of games, and in that ballpark, you need great pitching because you get that ball up and it's gone. And so that Tennessee team can do two things: they can pitch, and lately they can get the ball out of there in a hurry.
Yeah.
So I have them up there at number 2. I think they prove me wrong, I guess.
Prove me wrong is correct there. I think that we just all are looking here to see what the next thing is. Everybody wants to buy in. Let's just jump into it. LSU number 1. I don't know if there's any arguments here. Alex, I'm going to let you speak first. You got that wonderful hat on. You got the whole backup ready to go. What do we got on LSU?
Man, they sure won the transfer portal this last season. And not only did they win the transfer portal, but then they brought in the number 1 recruiting class. So there are going to be a ton of new faces in Baton Rouge, a ton of talent. The biggest thing is just going to be the bullpen, how the bullpen shakes out. They lost basically the entire back half of their bullpen from last season, which, I mean, the bullpen carried the load for LSU last year. And so that's going to be the biggest question mark, and how quickly this team gels. It's got a ton of talent. How quickly does it become a team?
Yep.
How quickly can Coach Johnson get the best 9 on the field? He's got a lot of options.
Yeah, they're going to be mixing up a lot of things in there. I know we've talked about this before. Sean, what do you think here with that LSU? I know they've got some dudes on that team in the lineup. What are we thinking?
Yeah, Dylan Cruz is my preseason Golden Spikes Award winner. I mean, how can you bet against that guy? And I think he's going to lead this team of talent as far as they want to go. I don't see anyone competing with them on raw talent, and I think it's going to be really hard for any team to take a series away from them. Like Alex said, the back half of the bullpen is a little sketchy, and they do have a lot of transfers and freshmen coming in. But those dudes are ball players, and it's going to be hard to beat LSU this year.
Yeah, you look at it, and there's a lot of people there. Jake, is it too many mouths to feed? What are we thinking here with LSU? That's a lot of guys to try to get in those lineups.
Yeah, and I mean, at-bats are going to be hard to come by, but I think that's going to play in their favor. I mean, the LSU's going to have a really, really good schedule too as well. They play A&M, Arkansas, Tenor, and USC right there in the middle, and then it kind of sets up for them at the back half as they can kind of roll into it, set their pitching up for the tournament. But I would be very, very shocked if this isn't the number 1 team, kind of like Tennessee last year where they go on a run. There's just so much talent there.
What do you got, Noah? What do you got?
Do not say tenor.
Tenor.
Oh, but Arky's fine.
Tennessee fans are going to beat us up. Don't say
Arky.
Arky fans are going to beat us up. We're going to stay away from all that. Speaking of LSU being number 1, we had a good talk here with our friend Chris Demui from 60-foot 6-inch baseball. He's got a podcast out. He talks all LSU baseball. Alex and I had a good conversation with him. We're going to play that for you guys now.
All right, guys, we are on with Chris Demui. For those of you who may not know, he's a former LSU relief pitcher, 96-97 national championship team, and just all-around expert on all things LSU baseball. So we brought him in to kind of give us some insights. He's been down at the box a little bit this fall, watching some of the scrimmages. So I wanted to get some of his insight here for the this coming season on LSU. So Mark, what's your you got a question for Chris?
Yeah, let's get on into it here. Let's start off. Do you believe the Tigers are the number 1 team in the nation? I know a lot of us believe that they're going to come out in the first rankings and be the number 1 team. All the additions. What do you think?
I think you got to say no, and I think that may surprise some people, but I think they did a great job recruiting and a great job in the transfer market. Jay Johnson hit the portal hard. I just think, and I'm sure we'll get into it some, Mark, I think there's just too many question marks on the pitching side of things to where when you look at some of the rotations around the country, such as Tennessee And some of those guys coming back, they're proven. And I think LSU just has some question marks that need to be answered before they head into the first couple series.
Fair. Absolutely fair there.
Yeah.
So how does LSU then, how do they win the SEC this year until 2023? How do they get on top?
I think they're going to mash. I think their lineup, the top 5 or 6 can hit with anybody in the country. And I think the bottom half will be flexible, and they'll be able to do some different things with a little bit of power and some guys that can get on base and set the table for the top or middle of that order. But I think it gets back to pitching. That's how they're going to be able to win the SEC. And I really think it's going to come this year from their starters. I think last year the starters were in flux. You know, Mikael Hilliard carried a load. Blake Money kind of fell off halfway throughout the season. And Sunday was just kind of a total mixed bag with a couple freshmen piggybacking for the first couple innings. So they really relied very heavily on that bullpen to carry them at the end of the year. Oh, about the middle of the year, towards the end of the year. And at the end of the year, they were toast, right? They got the Southern Miss and they just couldn't get the job done. They had logged so many innings. So I think the way they're going to win the SEC is I think the starting pitching this year is going to have to carry the load, especially in conference play. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. Fully agree there. I think that taking some pressure off that bullpen came in. That's a big add for them. Not having to burn up that bullpen early is going to be huge for their success later on in the season. Alex, you got a couple questions for him?
Yeah. So, Chris, what series are you looking forward to most down there in the box?
They have a great home slate, but it's got to be the Tennessee series, right? I think I think a lot of people don't like Tennessee right now. You know, they're kind of the new kid on the block in a sense. You know, they're puffing their chest out, and their football team's doing the same thing right now as we see in football season. But I think the box is going to be rocking. LSU's got. I was looking at their schedule before we jumped on. I think they believe they have Arkansas and Tennessee back-to-back home series.
Yeah.
So, and they have State coming in this year. But to me, I think everybody's going to circle that Tennessee series and be ready to go.
Yeah, I expect that to be a pretty raucous environment that weekend.
No doubt. Y'all are going to have to get the crew down for that one or something. Y'all got to try to make a road trip. Alex, you got to get those guys down here. You know, Mark, I know it's a little further south, but you got to we'll take care of you. Come down here. You know, that'd be a great series to go to.
I agree. Alex
I'll
has been
definitely
trying to
be
get me
there.
to come down to the box. He's been trying to get me to come down to the box now for a year and a half. So trying to make it work with the schedule and everything going on. So we're trying to see where we can be. I know I'm taking a couple road trips this year, but I might be able to see if I can make one down to the box for that one.
There you go. That'd be a good time.
So what transfer player do you think makes the biggest impact? I know we talked about they brought in a lot of guys. They have a lot of talent. How do they mesh? Who's the best impact here?
I think it's got to be Paul Skeens from the Air Force transfer. I think a lot of people may say Tommy Tanks, Tommy White coming in with that big bat, but I think Skeens' ability, to hit and pitch, and from what I've seen, when I've seen him throw, he's going to slot right into that weekend rotation. And it seems like he's not going to play a position. Now, I don't know if he maybe plays first some, but it looks like in the scrimmages, he's just DHing right now. It seems like that may be the plan moving forward. So it's a matter of, whenever you start him, if he's going to DH the other 2 games just to get his bat in the lineup. And you put him in there with Cruz, Morgan, Tommy Tanks, Pearson's coming out off a great freshman campaign. I mean, that's a crazy 1 through 5 or 6 right there. He's got plenty of protection, but I think his ability to contribute on the mound and at the plate and hit for power is going to be massive for LSU this year.
Yeah, I talked to Tommy, or not to Tommy, but to Paul a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and he said that he's just going to be pitching. He's not going to be playing a position. He'll pitch and DH.
That's good for him, though. I think that's a good use of him, and I think, if you can slot him in every day where he's throwing one of the weekend rotation games and then he's hitting 6 or something down there where he can just free swing, that's a big bat to be adding to that lineup on top of his pitching ability.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the first time I saw him, it's I didn't realize he's massive. I just didn't realize. I mean, he looks like he should be playing tight end. I mean, he's 6'8", 240, 230. And guy, he is just a big kid, very athletic, obviously, but he's just a big body, man. That's a big kid.
Yeah, he definitely looks a part of a man. He comes up to you like, that's a man. That's not a boy. He's in here. He's ready to go. So
no doubt.
This is what's coming down. Chris, do you think they can solve their fielding issues from last year. I know it's a big bugbear.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room.
Right. I think every time a ground ball went up the middle, everybody held their breath collectively in Baton Rouge, So I'm sure Alex can feel my pain there. But I mean, they got to, right? Just hopping on before you guys, just looking at some things. I think they fielded at a 962 clip last year, which isn't good enough. And Jay Johnson said he wants to take a more active approach with the infielders this year. I think he's taking a more hands-on approach. So, Thompson at short he committed 18 errors last year, and I just don't see how he can do that again because they have some competition this year behind him. Where last year it was just him up the middle, and you had Doty at second base, and there wasn't really a lot of competition for him. So this year up the middle, they have guys that can fill in, and for some reason Thompson falters at short. They have freshman Gavin Guidry, Louisiana product, who everybody's very high on. And then at second base, it's a toss-up. That's kind of one of those positions that's a question mark right now with 2 or 3 guys battling out. Gavin Dugas, who was a utility guy. You got Nippold, the transfer from VCU. And then I think Gavin Guidry could probably slide over and play second as well. So definitely some competition. And if guys, they have 2 or 3 errors in a weekend, they're definitely going to be looking over their shoulder, I think.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. I think Guidry kind of fits in right away defensively. I don't know if he's got enough bat for him, but the dude fits in immediately as a defensive help. So maybe that's where they lean, on those days too. Maybe when Paul is pitching, maybe he gets DH for and he gets to go over there and play second base and just fill in that need of defense. So,
I haven't thought about that scenario, but that's actually a great idea. He and two, I think they're probably cross training some guys. So if there's any type of an injury up the middle or at third base with Tommy White, I assume he's going to slot in over there. At least they have some options this year, to where last year they just didn't really have a whole lot of bodies up the middle. So
yeah, makes sense. I can buy all that.
So Chris, you think Dylan Cruz is going to be repeat as SEC Player of the Year? Maybe get the Golden Spikes.
I mean, I think he's got a fabulous chance to. I was last year he hit 349 with 22 home runs. And then, I mean, we all knew he was good as a freshman. I didn't realize he hit 362 and he had 18 home runs as a freshman. And I would not be surprised to see him. The way he's been running the ball at the park in the fall, I know the fall is the fall. You can read into it what you want, kind of like spring football practice. But he's got 5 home runs in the fall. And I think he's got a great shot to win the Golden Spikes this year, almost like a career achievement award, especially if LSU is, they're in the top 5. They need taking care of business in the field. And I can't imagine him not playing a major role in this team. I just don't see how he wouldn't continue to put up those type of numbers, even with more protection this year.
Yeah. I think if the guys around him stay healthy, that's going to be a huge key, because that protection around him, so he's actually getting at bats that matter versus getting a lot of walks and got a lot of stuff out of the zone. If they have to throw to him, he's going to hit. That guy, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he could actually he could steal probably 15 to 20 bases, I think, if he wanted to. But that is just running is not a big part of the program, and I'm sure he doesn't like to. Jay Johnson doesn't want to take any bats out of people's hands and run out of innings, but he could easily steal 15 to 20 bags, no problem.
It's tough too, because you kind of want to put some pressure on defenses, but when you got that many guys going to run into a ball and hit it over the fence, it's tough to take those chances in those games. I mean, runs are at a premium, especially in the SEC.
I agree.
So we think that LSU is going to be good this year. We think that they've fixed a lot of their problems. What is their biggest weakness? What weaknesses do they have? We talked about the starting pitching just not quite being a lot of experience yet. What else have we got, Chris? What are we missing here on the weaknesses for LSU?
I think, to me, it's where their strength was last year in the bullpen. To me, the biggest weakness lies in the bullpen this year, just because it's a huge, huge question mark. And I think there's plenty of arm talent to fill the starting roles. You have Skeens, you have Thatcher Hurd, as y'all were talking about, coming off an injury from UCLA. They're bringing him along slowly. I think you have Ty Floyd, who was the number 2 last year. And then I think you've seen guys that got innings like Grant Taylor, had a great year in the Cape this year, a great summer. And he's looked really good in the fall. And we don't know how Christian Little, the Vanderbilt transfer, is going to shake out. He just started throwing in the fall last weekend, I believe, or 1 or 2 weekends ago. So they're bringing him along slow as well. But to me, in the bullpen, you have some good middle relievers. Bryce Collins did a great job in middle relief. You have Riley Cooper from the left side, who was solid, who played with Jay Johnson. Both those guys played with Jay Johnson in Arizona. But the big problem is who's going to close. Last year it was really Raiselman and Gervais. They flip-flop, and then it just became Raiselman setting up and Gervais closing at the end of the year, and those guys were a great combination. But as of right now, I just don't think they have a quote-unquote set-up closer right now unless they put I don't know, it'd be tough to put a freshman in that role, or they maybe move a little into that role, or a Grant Taylor into that role in the weekends. I don't know. I don't, Alex, I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but I think that's the biggest question mark. And how they could falter potentially is just if they don't identify somebody at the back end of games to shut it down.
Yeah,
I was
no,
going to
totally
wonder.
agree.
Yeah, I was going to wonder about that with bringing in Little. I didn't know if he's going to get a starting role. Alex and I were talking about that earlier today. I thought maybe he gets a chance on Sundays, and people are saying no. Maybe he's the guy they just say, hey, you want a spot? You want to be on this roster? That's the spot. You're going to be in there in the late game innings because he's got experience. He's got SEC experience. Mm-hmm. He's got all the stuff to be a closer. Maybe they look at moving him to that side of it instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, LSU brought in a ton of talent in that freshman class. There's a ton of arms in that freshman class. I mean, you look at like Chase Shores and Griffin Herring, and I mean, a lot of top, 150 kind of talent pitchers from that didn't go into the draft. And, it's all a matter of how they pan out and what kind of roles they find for them. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a freshman back there closing, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Chase Shores because he's up to 98. I mean,
yeah, I had a chance to see him live, and maybe his first or second outing in the fall, and he was really impressive. I mean, if y'all just walked out there, he does not look like a freshman on the mound. He's also 6'8", and he was 96 to 98, in the first inning, and he looks calm, composed. And the interesting thing when I saw him pitch is that, as hard as he throws as a freshman, you would think he may try and strike everybody out and just drive his pitch count up, but he was not afraid, to pitch to contact, meaning people did put him in play, and that wasn't a big deal to him. He was aggressive in the zone, and some of that may be Wes Johnson's influence, the new pitching coach for LSU this year. But he had a second pitch for a strike, which was consistent. He had as a wipeout slider. So I think at the end of games, as y'all know, it's a big mentality thing. And if he has the right mindset, I mean, the stuff's there. 96, he's just got to blow it out for an inning or inning and 2/3. I mean, he's going to hit 100 this year. I mean, that's not a hot take. I just think once it gets warm, that kid's going to hit triple digits. So maybe so, Alex. That would be phenomenal to see.
There have been some good freshmen in the past. I know the Pac-12's had a bunch of freshmen like Kenyon Yovan that come in as freshmen, be All-American saves, get those closes in. Maybe that's where they go. I mean, that's a good idea there, Alex. I mean, bringing in the freshmen, they don't know any better. They come in and just out late in the game. It doesn't matter. They don't know any better. They don't know the pressure. So show up and throw.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you for one thing for certain, it's going to be fun to watch this spring.
Yeah, I think everybody's obviously football is turning things around, and football's it's big down here. But I've probably been to 4 or 5 of the scrimmages, and there's routinely 100 to sometimes 250 people out there. It's free to get in. Scouts galore out there, as you can imagine, and I think there's definitely a lot of excitement with the freshman class that he brought in, and the transfers. And it seems like Maneri liked to recruit a lot of athletic guys that could play multiple positions, but it seemed like Jay's philosophy, I don't know if this for a fact, but he wants guys that are going to be big leaguers, and that's the body type and upside that he recruits to where, the pitchers are huge this year. Everybody's like over 6'2", regardless of the year. They all their velos ticked up, maybe a testament to Wes Johnson and what he's doing. But you can see the freshmen and some of the stats these freshmen are putting up, especially the hitters, they're not scared of going against these guys with velocity. Some of the freshman outfielders especially have really showed up and are doing a great job with the bat, and giving some of these veterans a run for their money. So I think people are excited, very excited actually, for what the spring holds.
I agree. I can't wait to watch it. Chris, we thank you for joining us. If you guys haven't seen him before, go to the podcast, 60 foot 6 inch, does LSU stuff. If you like LSU baseball, go give Chris a listen. He's great to follow. So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Anytime, Mark, Alex, I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
All
man.
right.
Have a good one.
All right, man. You too.
Chris Demui, it is his birthday, so we'd like to wish him happy birthday. He's out doing stuff, so we pre-recorded that one with him. Great talking to him again. 60-foot, 6-inch podcast. Go give him a follow. He's terrific. He's all about LSU. Go follow him if you love LSU baseball. Really good knowledge there. Great guy. All right, boys, let's get into it. Player of the year for the SEC. Alex, I'm going to start with you because I think I know where you're going.
Well, I mean, obviously it's Dylan Cruz, right? I mean, he was the co-SEC player of the year last year, and there is no reason to think he's not going to have as good, if not better, year this year. I mean, you think about the talent that's around him. You can't pitch around this lineup. I mean, you got Cruz, Morgan, Tanks, Joe Bear. I mean, just the lineup's going to mash. And so there's no safe spot.
Yeah, there's nowhere to run away from this LSU lineup. You're going to have to compete with them, and it's going to be tough all year. Sean, who you got as the player of the year in the SEC?
I also got Dylan Cruz. I just don't think you can pick against him at this point until someone shows you different. So, yeah, simple as that.
AJ?
I got Tommy White. I think, looking at that LSU lineup, they're going to be like, okay, we know what Dylan Cruz can do in the SEC. We're going to choose to try to stay away from that and force Tommy White to beat us, and he can, and he will. And they'll have to try to, figure out what else to do. You're just going to start off the game with 3 walks and then just deal with whoever. But I think Tommy's going to benefit from the lineup at LSU a ton. I mean, he raked at NC State, and that's not a bad baseball team by any stretch of the imagination, but this LSU roster is built different. And that offense, he's going to get pitches to hit with people on base and a ballpark that ball flies. And he's going to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, he was better on the road last year coming into a sophomore season. I don't think I see a sophomore slump coming, but playing in that ballpark in LSU, being surrounded by those dudes, I like that, AJ. I think he's going to have a good season as well. Jake, who you got as player of the year?
I got Paul Skeens. I really wanted to say Dylan Cruz, but I wanted to kind of be unique in it. I wouldn't be surprised if he almost has an Ohtani-like season where he's really good on the mound and then he comes in DHs on that side, and that's what kind of pushes him over the top. But, I mean, you can pick about 4 or 5 LSU guys you could pencil in here.
Yeah, and I think Skeens is a good guy. I think he's going to get those starts. I think Alex and I talked about this. I think he's going to be the Friday night starter. He's going to have a chance for it anyway. And coming down to SEC play, if he gets in there and he DHs the other 2 days, hitting 6, that's a dude in the lineup there that you got to worry about. Noah, who we got?
This is the last time I go after Jake. He spent the entire year last year patronizing me, and now it's going to seem like I'm patronizing him. But I have Paul Skeens winning it and actually sharing the award with Dylan Cruz. I think it's going to be so much of an ESPN, SEC network kind of love fest. Think about Major League Baseball, how we can't turn on the TV without hearing about Shohei Ohtani. If Paul Skeens is 1/10 of the player that Shohei Ohtani is, he is going to be all over. It's going to be like Ivan Melendez. Like, I remember every time he swung the bat, it was trending on Twitter. Paul Skeens is going to light up the country. It's going to be very good for college baseball. And you can say Dylan Cruz is repeating, but Trey Lipscomb won the award in my book last year.
I'm going to go away from LSU. I'm going to go Bradfield Jr. I think that he's going to have a huge season for Vandy. I think he's the only way that Vandy is good this year is if he is great. He's had 2 great seasons already. I look for him to try to push his name and try to get that into a first-round pick and be the dude there at Vanderbilt. So going off, I'm going to go with Bradfield Jr. I think he's got the chance to do it. Pitcher of the year, Noah, I'll let you go first now. I'm going to put you on here. Pitcher of the year, you tell us who you got pitcher of the year.
The single hardest question that we've had to answer this entire show is pitcher of the year.
Yes.
This is a loaded class in the SEC. I wanted to pick Chase Dolander. He's so good. I wanted to pick Will Sanders because my and AJ's Gamecocks are going to be in Omaha in June, and he's going to be a huge part of it. But I'm going with Brady Tiger. I love the way he plays. I love his energy. It's a little bit of a dark horse pick. I see Sean's little smile peeking out. It's going to fly a little bit under the radar. If Arkansas is going to be good, he is going to be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Kind of a friend of the program, a little bit.
A slight friend.
Okay. All right. I like it. Alex, who we got pitcher of the year?
I'm going Paul Skeens. I mean, he's going to have a chance to be the Friday night guy for LSU. And, kind of like, as mentioned earlier, kind of that Otani effect where they're just always talking about him because they're always going to be talking about LSU. And I think it's going to be Paul Skeens.
All right. Sean, who we got?
I want to say Hagen Smith because that dude is electric. And the stuff just comes so easy for him. But I got to go Hunter Elliott. I mean, talk about a freshman season. He was outstanding, frankly. And I think he's going to be leading this Ole Miss team this year for sure. And I see him continuing his sophomore season.
All right. AJ, who we got?
Went with the Volunteer, but I did not go with Dolander. I went with Chase Burns. No, he was electric last year. And I think that he's, probably learned to pitch a little more than just throw because that caught up with him a little bit towards the end of the year. But he will be, the stuff's not going anywhere. And, having someone like Dolander to be a 1-2 punch, then, oh, yeah, we have Drew Beam who's just going to, not strike a ton of guys out, but miss barrels. It's that entire rotation is elite. And I think Dolander might get the most press to start out the year, but at the end of the year, Chase Burns is going to have the best overall season.
I like it. Jake, who we got?
I had Burns as well, and I kind of had it for the same reason that they're going to have the best pitching staff, and you have to pick the best pitcher on the best pitching staff to be the best pitcher all around. I got a little nervous when Noah started talking, though. I thought he was going to steal it and we were going to go 1-2 back-to-back. But this one was pretty easy for me. Chase Burns, I think, is going to be the pitcher of the year. He's going to run away with it.
I was on the fence here, and I was coin flipping between a couple guys, between Dolander and Sanders. I think I'm going to go Will Sanders because I think of what you just said, the best pitcher on the best staff. That might be the best 3 starting pitchers in the whole SEC. I know that Tennessee's got dudes. I'm going to go Sanders here with this one. All right, we're going to jump into it. Freshman of the year, Sean, I'm going to let you start us off here, bud.
I'm going to go Jason Jones, Arkansas. Arkansas, you're going to be fighting for time on the field this year. There's a lot of transfers coming in. It'll be interesting to see how things pan out. But he was ranked 35 nationally and the 6th shortstop in the country, 3rd overall in Texas and 2nd shortstop in Texas. The dude has a 105 exit velo coming off his bat. So I think if he sees the field enough, I think he's got it.
The battle for playing time is always the thing for freshmen. AJ, who you got?
Yeah, for me, I was picking between 2 South Carolina guys, believe it or not. And it really is, the path to playing time. I think I have to give Ethan Petrie the nod. Who's the 31st ranked prospect coming out of high school. 3rd baseman, got the build for it already, 6'4", 220, and that's before they got him in the weight room. So he's probably going to start the season around 230, 235. Two-way guy, probably just going to let him hit. But all the tools to step in and replicate what Hunter Hines did for Mississippi State last year. Step in as a freshman and just rake. If the question is, can he get at-bats in that lineup? And probably, because the lineup isn't returning a lot of stuff. There's a lot of question marks. He'll get his chance. And I think he's going to take it and run with it.
I think it is. Freshman of the Year is an opportunity award. I think you're right there. I think he's going to get chances. I also think he might be a little Braden Montgomery-esque where he might get some innings late where he can go and burn some guys with some fastballs. I'm excited to see him get an opportunity out there. High rated, good chance there. I like that. Good opportunities. Noah?
Yeah, I've got I don't know how to say his name. The pitcher from Mississippi State who throws with both hands. Clint J. I'm looking forward to hearing how they say his name when he comes in and pitches like in every other game this year. I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be another one of those guys where you can scroll on Twitter and you see every time he throws the ball. Because first game out, he's going to switch hands like as soon as he can. And people are going to lose their minds. I'm really looking forward to it. I think he's going to be one of those players that you almost have to have him as freshman of the year just because of, oh, well, I saw him so much. He may not be all that great. He may not be, but he's so cool.
I love it. Jake, who you got?
I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about A&M. Jace Lavallere, I think he's going to be the freshman of the year. Not to one up you there, AJ, but he's 6'5", so he's an inch bigger. Number 1 outfielder in all of Texas. I mean, he rakes all over the field. Had multi-home run games in the fall. I'm very, very excited. It reminds me a lot of Jack Moss in terms of how he kind of swings the bat. Big, powerful lefty bat.
Yeah, taking a look at his swings this fall ball, he looks like Jack Moss. He's a big dude. Guy swings hard. He's got exit velo up there around 110. I've seen a couple of those balls. I just don't know if he's going to get the opportunity, but Jake seems to think he's going to get plenty of opportunity, plenty of swings there.
If you can hit home runs, you're gonna find the lineup. That one's gonna be a given.
That's fair. Alex, who we got?
Well, I'm going surprise, another LSU player. I'm going with Brady Neal, who was top 50 catcher coming out of IMG Academy last year, and catcher's a spot on this LSU team where you can find some playing time. There was a revolving door at catcher last year, and they brought in a bunch of catchers this year. And I think he's the best one. I think he's the complete package when you talk defense and offense. I mean, he's hit 4 home runs so far in the fall, and he's a stocky guy from the left side, and he has a cannon for an arm. He threw out Dylan Cruz during his fall scrimmage, and I think he's he may not start the season as the everyday catcher, but he'll end the season as the everyday catcher, and I think he'll do enough to be the freshman of the year.
Yeah, I was worried about opportunities for him, but I do think he'll probably end up catching 2 of the 3 weekend games once he gets into that lineup. I'm going to go with another LSU player, Gavin Guidry. I really like what he brings defensively. If he can get enough offense going, I think he finds a spot in that lineup because they have question marks up the middle, and I think moving him second base, giving him that opportunity, just letting him fly out as a freshman. I'm going to go Guidry on this one here for that freshman of the year. Good ones here. We had all different ones. Love it. Best series of the year. Who am I going to go with first? I'm going to go with AJ. AJ, who you got best series of the year?
I think you're going to see a very fired up Vanderbilt team visiting Tennessee this year, trying to prove that, hey, you may have gotten us last year at our place, but we can return the favor. Tennessee went from, being kind of the rallying cry for, college baseball's fun and, Vandy's the traditional way. And they just went in and just stomped Vanderbilt. I think Vandy's, especially guys like Enrique Bradfield, are going to take that and just walk into Knoxville with not a chip on their shoulder, but like a 2x4 and go in and just, you will see heart, you will see fire. Don't know what's going to happen. Just expect a very hard fought series.
The Battle of Tennessee is a real thing. Vandy has been owning it for several years, and then they just got beat up last year. I'm with you. I think that's going to be a great series. Noah, who you got for the best series?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think we all had our calendar circled a year ago just at the idea of this one coming up. Tennessee and Arkansas, it's going to get fiery, hopefully. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be so exciting to see these teams finally duke it out. You wish Arkansas had a little bit more of that punch in their lineup. Maybe they will come that time, April 15th. I'm looking forward to being in Fayetteville. Certainly not wearing this hat because I do wish to leave Fayetteville. But looking forward to it. I hope to see everybody in the world there. I know that a couple people from College Baseball Central are going to try their best to be there. It's going to get insane. I can't wait.
Jake, who you got best series?
A&M LSU. I mean, these were the best team last year, A&M in the West, and then the best team this year in the West. This was kind of really the proving ground. I know last year when LSU lost to A&M, it was kind of the one that raised all the red flags. And then when A&M beat LSU, it was kind of what got them started. I'm going to be really excited for that series. That's probably going to be when we see how good A&M is. Because, I mean, Jimbo talks about it in football. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And if you can go in there and beat LSU, that'll raise a bunch of eyebrows. That's a big proving series.
It's a show me series right there. Sean, what do we got? Best series.
I got Arkansas, Tennessee. Arkansas went to Knoxville and took this series away, and Tennessee obviously is not happy about it. DVH and Tony Vitello had some words afterwards, and if you're on Twitter at all, you see Arkansas and Tennessee fans going at it almost daily. It's going to be a madhouse at Baumwalker Stadium, and I don't know. I'm thinking there might be an ejection or two. Honestly, it's
that That's going to be a fiery series.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
everybody's looking forward to that one. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. Those fans are great down there. Alex, I don't know where you're going with this one, but I think it might be LSU series.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick one of a couple series. I mean, I will say that Arkansas Tennessee series is going to be a ton of fun to watch. I mean, then you can look at LSU Arkansas. That Texas A&M LSU game series is also going to be good, but it's got to be LSU Tennessee, right? I mean, it's predicted probably the number 1, number 2 team in the country, and then certainly number 1, number 2 team in the SEC. And they're duking it out in the box. That place is going to be alive and electric, and it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I believe that there's some great series here. A lot of people are picking the Tennessee game, so I think a lot of people want a little bit of revenge on that Tennessee. I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff here. Florida at South Carolina, April 21st through the 23rd. I think this is the first time that Florida's going to have to prove themselves as an SEC team and be that good series, going on the road to face that tough pitching staff there at South Carolina. I think it's important for both teams, and that's why I picked it, because I think that this could determine whether those teams are in that 6 through 10 range to see who finishes where in the SEC and get that good speed in the tournament. So I'm going Florida at South Carolina, 21st through 23rd of April. I think that's a great series there. Okay, we're going to get right into it here. Sean, tell me who the dark horse team is this year that you think could win the SEC.
Noah kind of sold me. He picked South Carolina to be in his Omaha 8. They have a great pitching staff. And, they've got such a storied history. South Carolina is a great baseball school, and I think they're going to be coming out fiery and looking to really turn things around this year. So I think they're going to be one to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are very excited to see what South Carolina can do. I think if they don't have a great season, it's going to be a hard letdown for those fans. AJ, who you got as the dark horse this year?
Well, South Carolina is too good on the pitching staff to be a dark horse, in my opinion. So I kind of went real dark horse, Georgia.
Okay.
I think if you look at the Georgia series, no team's like, oh, it's the Georgia series, let's get up. It's kind of like, this is kind of our easy week. That and Mizzou and Kentucky and Bama, like those are the teams you want to play. And Georgia's going to relish that. They have, if they build their team to go into every week with that underdog mindset, that does a lot for a team overachieving. And all they have to do is, hold their own on the road and then take advantage of teams sleepwalking into their place at home. And all of a sudden you're looking at a team who, if they take a series against Tennessee, if they take a series against Vanderbilt, they're up there in the East, and we're like, how did this happen?
Yeah, taking care of business at home is big key there in the SEC. And if you can win some home series, even take 2 or 3, you put yourself in a good place. I mean, road games are hard to come by, but win at home, put yourself in a good spot there. Alex, where are we looking at for a dark horse?
I mean, I'm looking at Florida for a dark horse. I mean, they got Hurston Waldrop, who I think is going to slot right in there, right where Hunter Barco was, and isn't going to miss a beat. I mean, Wyatt Langford can hit, and it's just going to be a question if they can get the offense around him. Kevin O'Sullivan is a really good coach, and he's kind of known as a pitching guru, and so he'll have that pitching staff humming. And like I said, they're gonna surprise some teams, and I think they're a dark horse.
I like it. I like that Florida pick. I think a lot of people are pushing them down, thinking that's going to be a down year and a rebuilding year. They're not. They're not ever down. They still get recruits. They still get guys. Waldrop coming in is a huge add for them. I'm going to give Jake a chance to steal another one from Noah. Jake, who's your dark horse here?
I'm going to almost guarantee this one's not going to be Noah's. I hinted at it earlier, but I'm going with the only true dark horse I think of the group, Kentucky. I think they're going to shock a lot of people. I wanted to go with somebody a little bit unexpected. I think they're going to have the hitting talent that's just going to be timely enough, and they're going to have just enough pitching to kind of push them over the edge.
Yeah, I like that. I think Kentucky has added a lot. I think that they played good down the stretch. Hopefully they can build on that from last year's SEC play. Noah, who we got?
A sentence I've never said before. I agree with Alex and AJ. I think the Cox are a team that you cannot call a dark horse because their pitching is just so good. And then I think that answer is going to be Florida. I hate Florida. Everybody knows that. They're going to be so highly rated. They're probably going to be number 17 in the preseason, and it's going to be disgusting. But their schedule is so easy in the non-conference. They're going to heat up. They're going to get that confidence with the guys who are a little bit newer. And then you have Waldrop in there. Do we forget about how good he is?
Yeah.
Florida. Kevin O'Sullivan is not directly on the hot seat, but when you're at Florida, you're always kind of on that hot seat, and he might be feeling the seat heat up just a little bit. The pressure's on, just in the perfect amount for Kevin O'Sullivan to remind us that he's Kevin O'Sullivan. I might, if these are out there, throw a little cash on Florida to win the SEC outright, not just as a dark horse. I'm decently confident that they could do it. I love this Florida team, which is a horrible sign for Florida fans.
I think this is hilarious. I literally had SC written down and it said ? Too good, and so I didn't put them, and I literally went Florida for the same reasons. I think O'Sullivan. I think that he's going to go and he's going to save his job. This is how they have to get back. You have to be good at Florida to continue to coach there. They've been a little bit of a drought from going to Omaha. Those fans love going there. I think that this is a rebuild. I think that they are the dark horse. I think, unfortunately, people are putting them down, but yeah, they're a top 25 team, and all they did was add in Waldrop and make that lineup better. So I'm going to go with Florida because I think South Carolina is just too good. AJ, we're talking about how South Carolina is too good. I'm going to get into you with one question directly for you. How can they win the league? How are they this good?
Well, first off, you got to win the league by staying healthy. If you get injured at all, that throws every plan out of whack. But the one big improvement from this year or from last year to this year is just the depth of the pitching staff. And when you have depth, you have the ability to assign guys in your bullpen certain roles, and they get to stick through them without the year. We saw Matthew Becker fill in as a freshman and have back-to-back outstanding games against – he did very well at Tennessee and then shut down Texas and then shut down Vanderbilt. And then he got bounced back between, were you a long reliever? Or do we bring you in as a setup guy? And so he, didn't have a defined role, and we saw how that hurt him. Noah Hall and Will Sanders both pitched very well, but knowing that they had no bullpen behind them, they were stretched out longer than they should have been in multiple different games. So their ERAs, got inflated in the 6th, 7th, 8th innings. Now you have healthy guys and just a stable of arms behind them. Bringing back Braylon Wimmer is huge for this team. He is, anytime
Absolutely.
He steps on the baseball field, he's the most talented person wearing a South Carolina uniform on the field. He has, pro scouts just, their mouths water when they watch him at 6'5", run a 6'2", 60, and he can play center field, second base, and hit for power. Him and Braswell probably making your double play combination up the middle. Can they hold that down? Can guys like Evan Stone, who were great defensively, take a step forward offensively? And then I think the big question is the transfers. You got Monty Lee as an assistant coach there now. If that name rings a bell, he was the head coach at Clemson. He brings 3 Clemson guys in, who Jonathan French, catcher, who's probably going to be catching for the Gamecocks, Dylan Brewer, a center fielder, and then Ricky Williams, a pitcher, who just another arm just added to the bullpen. Can those guys truly mesh with South Carolina guys? We've seen it happen in the past. We've seen it not work. And then my big kind of wild card that would help just give this team some infield depth, Will McGillis, transferred from Southern Miss, did very well there. Not a huge average guy, but can, lengthen a lineup with that pop. Can he be consistent enough at the plate to earn enough playing time? And really just, if South Carolina scores 4 or 5 runs a game, this is an elite team. And that offense is capable of exploding out, and the pitching staff is capable of shutting down almost any other team.
Yeah, and not making those starting pitchers, like you said, face the lineup a 3rd and 4th time. That's a big key, especially in SEC play, is making those guys not have to face them a 3rd and 4th time through the lineup. I think it's all nailed on the head right there. I think SEC or South Carolina has a chance. Jake, are we going to see A&M back in Omaha.
No. I don't see it. They, like AJ kind of hinted at earlier, they had a couple really lucky series kind of go their way. They lost a ton of senior leadership. Yeah, they have a ton of talent back, but who's going to be, the rock or the Klaus behind the plate who kind of quiets some of the young guys down? And I mean, statistically speaking, you're not going to win as many one-run ball games as they did last year. I think Omaha is going to be a stretch. I think if they get into a super regional, it's a very reachable goal for them. But I mean, if it sets up schedule-wise for them to go to Omaha, but off the bat, no. There's just going to be so many good SEC teams in front of them that they're probably going to get pushed back a little bit.
I'm never going to doubt Yeski coach pitching staff. I think that he could get those guys good enough to be where they need to be, but I'm with you. I don't think that they make a return trip. I think it was a fluke last year. I think it was good for them, but I think it was a little fluky. Like you said, those one-run wins is huge, and they're not going to have that back-to-back seasons. Sean, we talked about what can we do? How do we reload? Arkansas, what are they doing? How'd they get? What the players did they reload?
Yeah. So first of all, I have them going to Omaha. I want to preface with that.
Hogs are back.
But I mean, over half the team is new. They've got a great pitcher in Cody Frank coming from Nebraska. I think he's going to go right in with Hagen Smith and Jackson Wiggins in your starting three. He's also the oldest guy on that pitching staff. On the back end of that, I haven't really gotten to see a lot of the bullpen and the transfers from the bullpen. But you got Will McIntyre, Zach Morris, and Brady Tiger, who had great seasons last year. So I think they're going to be the ones out of the pen that are really going to anchor for the Hogs. Coming in on defense and at the and in the box, you got I said it earlier, Isaac Webb and Peyton Holt. They are big guys on the base path to watch out for opposing catchers. It'll be interesting to see, if they can run that well against SEC caliber teams. Other than that, I mean, all the transfers coming in are big average guys, and a lot of them have a good number of home runs and power as well. The main question is, can you hit at an SEC level and against SEC pitchers? That's always, a difference between divisions, and I think that's really going to show in the SEC. And on the returning guys, you have Peyton Stovall. He's moving over to second base. That's his main position. That's where he feels at home. I think he's going to be the leader for that infield for sure. And then you got guys like Kendall Diggs offensively, who is a huge power guy. He hit one over the development center in fall ball. And right now he's kind of looking like he might be DH, but I know Dave wants to get him more in the lineup and on the field. So I would look for him to provide a good amount of runs for the Hogs as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of question marks, a lot of stuff that they're rebuilding with. They might have to change their formula. Maybe it is a lot of more hit and runs, a lot of that kind of stuff, get the defense guessing. SEC ball is different every single year, but this year it feels like there's a ton of pitching, more than even past years. I think that the pitching is going to be tough, so getting in and being ready to be able to hit those SEC pitchers, that's going to be the key. Noah, I know that we've all talked about this, the big letdown being the number one team in the nation. Can Tennessee rebound? Do you think there's a little less pressure because now that LSU's probably got a little bit of that added pressure? How are we looking at Tennessee rebounding?
Well, we talk about Ole Miss kind of being Mississippi State last year. It's so easy to see the Tennessee and Arkansas parallels, and it was easy to see them last year too. When you're looking at these number one teams dominating the whole season, then kind of falling apart in the postseason, it is very ironic because these two teams obviously hate each other and they pretend to be opposites, but it's funny how they're identical when we put it on paper. So you look at Arkansas, you saw they had kind of a rough and tumble regular season. Every time it looked like they got it going, they would kind of slip up. But what did they do at the end of the year? They played in Omaha. They had a chance to win a national championship. Obviously, because it's Arkansas, they couldn't do it. But Tennessee is going to have a great opportunity when you look at that rotation. They got in a couple new transfers to plug and play. Another comparison to Arkansas, they lose Kevin Kopps. Tennessee loses Trey Lipscomb. They're kind of leaders. You look at it, say, how can we replace them? You bring these guys in. But the number one key for me is Tony Vitello still in Tennessee? Yes, he absolutely is. So there's only one thing I have to say. Oh, Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Oh, I lost where I
He
was.
doesn't know the words, man. They did all those retweets. You didn't even know the words.
Let's go, Rocky Top.
Couldn't
He's
even
into
bother to learn the song.
He's got it in his ear
I
too.
got in my head.
It sounds like a Tennessee baseball fan. Very new to Tennessee baseball.
Very fitting.
Oh, shifting gears from that, let's go say right here, boy, LSU has all the pressure in the world, Alex. I believe that they brought in the best talent. I believe that they brought in the best recruits. I don't even know how they are not going to be number one team in the country. Can they put up with it? Is it realistic for them to go number one start to finish this year?
I mean, I hope so. But, we haven't seen a team be the number one seed and win it all, ever in this format. And since, 99 Miami?
99 Miami, last one.
Yeah, so, maybe LSU, hopefully LSU can be the first, or maybe they trip up a little bit. Maybe they go in as the second seed and win it all. We'll see. Get number 7, national championship number 7. But, I mean, you also got to look at it's not just the talent they brought in from a player perspective. It's the coaches they brought in too. Like you talk about Wes Johnson, bringing him in as the pitching coach. I mean, you don't hear major league pitching coaches leaving to come to college baseball, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, he left the number one team. They were the Twins were number one in the AL Central at the time, and they, he left and said, "Nope, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to go coach with Jay Johnson down in LSU." And I think he's going to do awesome things with this pitching staff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And something Jay Johnson keeps repeating in this offseason is it's about finding the best 9, not necessarily the 9 best. So I guess he got that from Skip Bertman. So that guy knew a little bit about baseball.
Skip knew how to win some ball games here in the SEC, so I'd take any information he gives you and just run with it. I do believe that this LSU team has the opportunity to be number one. Maybe they falter. Let it be known that CBC last year, College Baseball Central, did have Ole Miss as the number one team in the country for 2 weeks. So it's not like they skipped out and didn't win the number one. I think LSU is the true number one to start the season. I don't know if they'll hold on to it all season, but I would love to see them get back to Omaha. Going back to Omaha, biggest question mark, guys, back-to-back national champions by the state of Mississippi. Do either ball club, Mississippi State or Ole Miss, make it back to Omaha? Alex, I'll start with you since I just finished with you on LSU.
No. Neither one of the Mississippi schools are making it to Omaha this year.
Sean?
What do you mean neither?
I mean neither one.
I'm also going. I'm going no, at least on the 2 SEC ones. Maybe Southern Miss. Who knows?
We're not throwing Southern Miss in here. I know. I left them out on purpose. You know how much I was hard on them last year. I wanted them so badly, and they broke my heart. So we're not talking about them this year. Right now, we're talking about Ole Miss and Mississippi State only. AJ, what do you got?
No, I think one of them probably is going to be a top 8 seed. Which one depends on how the season unfurls. But I think after the state of Mississippi holding the trophy for 2 years, they're not going to have a representative to hold it for a third.
I agree. I think we got them at 5-6 in the SEC. I think that they are very neck and neck with how their programs are right now and how they're rebuilding, trying to get back both off those. Jake, what do you got?
I think yes, and I know it's going to shock a lot of people because I was very critical of Mississippi State, but they're the central of college baseball. They're the best state in the whole country for college baseball. It's just almost shocking that we're even talking about them because Mississippi State went, 8 or 9 years in a row? That was hyperbole, by the way. And then Ole Miss won it last year. I think they're going to be back. I mean, you can't bet against one of those two going back. And especially if there's 4 or 5 SEC teams, you have to feel that one of those two is going to be in that group.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, 3 teams at least from the SEC pretty much go there every year. 4 last year. I think that it's going to be close. Noah, what are you thinking? Which one or none?
Yeah, it's very tough for me because I've made a career per se off of supporting Mississippi State athletics, but I just can't do it right now. I think Hunter Hines is a year away from stepping into that Tanner Allen Jake Mangum kind of role where he's kind of just all encompassing and going to will them to Omaha. I don't think there's anybody right there right now that is kind of saying, hey, let's go. We know how to get there, because they don't know how to get there. So I think that if there's anybody that's going to be Ole Miss, and I worry about the loss of Tim Elko, as I said earlier, I compare them to Mississippi State of last year, and that team fell apart pretty quickly. So I just don't see it right now, but I think that's right where Ole Miss wants to be.
Yeah, I think we're missing out on both those teams this year. I don't think either one makes it back to Omaha. I think if somehow, I don't know how Mississippi State let him get away, Braden Montgomery, but if he had stayed, I would have given them a chance, but he's at Stanford as a dude now. I just don't think either club has quite enough senior leadership, and given that experience, I think that they're both going to be out of the Omaha this year. I don't think either one makes it. Any final thoughts here? Alex, I'll start with you.
I'm just ready for the season to start. Football's been fun, but it's time for baseball.
We're on to baseball. Sean?
I think overall this might be one of the most competitive SEC slates we've seen in a while. There's going to be some great baseball. There's going to be a lot of trash talking on Twitter and social media in general, and I can't wait for it to start.
Love it. AJ?
Just hope everyone makes it to the first day healthy. It's tough to see seasons get derailed before the first pitch is thrown, but we got a lot of talent. I hope that talent stays healthy.
Yeah, we're going to have lots of talk here between now and February 1st. And once we get into February, hopefully everybody's healthy, ready to go. Jake, what do we got? Anything else additional?
I got two things. One, go follow the TikTok. It's at College Baseball Central. Give that a follow. We'll be posting a lot of clips on that. And then two, I think this is the year that the SEC breaks the record. I think we see 5 SEC teams in Omaha. That's my hot take. Wow.
Whew. I mean, it is possible with seeding and everything. That's a lot of teams. That's a lot.
It's got to set up perfectly, and I wouldn't be surprised if the NCAA tries to rig it by making them play each other. But I mean, I look up and down this line. I see so many good teams that could easily make Omaha.
I was going to wait until Texas and Oklahoma jump into the SEC to make that prediction, but I'll go with it. I like where you're at. Noah?
Yeah, I don't have any kind of crazy takes right now or anything. I know that Jake likes to throw stuff at the wall and then revert back on it in April and say, I was right, because he plays both sides of the card. He's actually later tonight, he's going to predict 0 SEC teams in Omaha, and then
that'll be on the TikTok.
Twitter, but I'm just so excited for the SEC. I'm going to see so many SEC teams play: Missouri, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Arkansas. I can't wait. This is the most SEC teams I've seen play before Omaha, and count them, that's 5. So maybe they all make it to Omaha. Welcome to Omaha, Missouri.
Ooh,
that's a
take. Listen, I think the SEC is great this year. I think that there's going to be so many great series. I'm really excited to watch baseball. I think that the SEC just brings out the best in what college baseball is. Again, thanks to University Traditions for providing all these hats for us. Go out, buy a hat. These guys, they support the Southern teams. They love to have Southern baseball. Go out, go support them again at universitytraditions.biz, or follow on Twitter and go to their site from there. Use our code CBC15 to get 15% off your entire order. Again, everybody following us here on the weekend rotation, like and follow, go see our stuff. Go see the TikTok from CBC. Jake's going to be on there lots talking baseball, and we're going to get after it here. Alex, Sean, AJ, Noah, Jake, a couple weeks we'll start ACC ball. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See y'all.